Hello, students. Welcome back to our online class. I am teacher Karen and I will be your teacher for Science Grade 5. Okay, for today's topic is the scientific method. Are you ready? Okay, let's get started. Okay, so this is the fourth and fifth page of your book. So let's start. So let us read all together. You follow teacher, okay? To learn like scientists, we observe the things around us to help find answers to what we want to know. This is called the scientific method. There are 5 steps to it. So that is ask question, make a hypothesis, gather information, study the information, and draw a conclusion. All right. So before we are going to answer this, so let's further discuss about the scientific method. Okay, so what is scientific method? Okay, the scientific method is a way to learn science using step-by-step actions. It is important for scientists to learn how to observe and find answers to the things they want to know. There are 5 steps in this method. Number 1 is ask a question. In this step, we ask questions or identify problems from observing things around us. We should observe carefully using all 5 senses. So we should observe using our 5 senses. Okay. Next, number 2, make a hypothesis. In this step, we guess answers to our questions. We guess from what we know. All right, so in number 2, you are going to try answering the questions using the knowledge that you know. Next, in number 3, gather information. So in this step, we find answer to our questions. We observe more, okay, explore, do experiment, create models, and then write down the data that we get, okay. Next, in number 4, study the information we gathered. So after gathering information, you are going to study, okay. In this step, we describe the information we got or try to explain the meaning of the results we got. So you are going to try explaining the meaning of the results. Okay, the last one is draw a conclusion. Okay, in this step, we make a summary of all the informations and results. We check if they match the hypothesis we made. This knowledge is used in our everyday life or used as guide for other studies in the future. So you are going to draw a conclusion using the information that you have gathered, and then you are going to compare it to the hypothesis that you've made. Okay? All right. So let's look at the experiment. All right, so we have here an example of experiment using the scientific method. Okay, so let's see. Kang and his friends want to know the best type of soil to grow Chinese kale. Together, they use the scientific method to find the answer as shown. Okay, so they want to know the best type of soil to grow Chinese kale. All right, so the first step is to identify the problem. Okay, so the first one is you are going to ask question, right? So what type of soil can grow Chinese kale best? Okay, next, step 2 is making a hypothesis. Okay, so they made a hypothesis. I think Chinese kale grows better in loam than clay and sandy soil, says his friend. Okay, and in number 3, okay, so using her own knowledge, She tried to make a hypothesis. Okay, let's move on to number 3. So they gathered information. Kang and his friends did an experiment to gather information. They planted Chinese kale seeds in 3 plant pots. Each pot had a different soil. So there is clay in pot 1, loam in pot 2, and sandy soil in pot 3. They watered each pot equally and wrote down how they grow for 25 days. So they gathered information about the best soil to plant Chinese kale. And so the Chinese kale in pot 2 is taller than the ones in pot 1 and 3. So that is the information that they gathered. Okay. And in number 5, they studied the information. So after gathering the information, they studied. Okay. So I read on the internet that Chinese kale is a vegetable that grows well in loam soil. We saw from our experiment that the Chinese kale in loam is taller than the others in clay soil and sandy soil. Now the last part is the step 5. They made conclusion. So according to the information that they have gathered and studied, they have made a conclusion that loam soil is the best soil for growing Chinese kale. Okay, and so they draw the results here. All right? Okay, now let us compare the hypothesis and the conclusion. Okay, so in step 2, the Chinese kale grows better in loam than clay and sandy soil. Is it correct? Yes or no? Yes. All right. So the hypothesis that the kale grows better in loam than clay and sandy soils matches the conclusion. Okay, so that ends the experiments of Kang and his friends. All right, so let's move back to your activity. Okay, so the instruction, fill in the blanks using the steps of scientific method. So you have to fill in or write the proper scientific method that is being used. Okay, for example, number 1. To grow morning glory, Jake has to know the right soil to use. Okay, so you write your answer here on the blank. So that is how you answer your activity in page 4. All right, so that ends our topic for today. So I hope you learned something from the scientific method and the experiment. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe and have a great day. Bye-bye.